In this video, we'll be discussing a zero trust architecture checklist. Perimeter security assumes the inside of the network is safe, but cloud has no real castle wall. Workloads span regions, people work from anywhere, and APIs sit on the internet by design. Zero Trust treats every request as potentially hostile and verifies it with fresh signals every time. This checklist covers 10 foundational practices for zero trust on AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. You will hear about never trust, always verify, explicit per request checks, auth everywhere, strong user and device identity, dynamic least privilege, assume breach, full logging, micro-segmentation, encrypt all traffic, and killing implicit trust zones. Use this when you replace VPN-only access, lock down high-value apps, or redesign identity-first access. 1. Never trust, always verify. 2. Verify every request explicitly. 3. Authenticate and authorize everywhere. 4. Use strong device and user identity. 5. Enforce least privilege dynamically. 6. Assume breach at all times. 7. Inspect and log all traffic. 8. Apply micro-segmentation. 9. Encrypt all communication. 10. Remove implicit trust zones. First, never trust, always verify. No user, device, service, or IP gets free trust because of where it sits. Access decisions use live identity, device health, location, and behavior, not a one-time VPN login through your IDP, the identity provider that confirms who someone actually is. Why does continuous verification matter? Compromised VPN credentials historically open wide lateral paths, meaning an attacker who gets in one place can move sideways to other systems. Continuous verification shrinks that blast radius, the total damage one compromised account or device can reach. Start with production databases, PII, and finance systems rather than boiling the ocean. AWS Verified Access evaluates IDP, identity, and device posture without VPN. Azure Conditional Access plus intra-risk-based MFA covers cloud and federated SaaS. Beyond Corp Enterprise and IAP enforce access levels for web, SSH, and RDP without a tunnel. Phased rollout on critical systems delivers value in weeks instead of waiting years for a full network rewrite. Quick note, more articles like this are on blog.systemsarchitect.io, and this is just like a shorter version of the original. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more, and check the video notes for links. Second, verify every request explicitly. Do not assume a long session still means safe. Short-lived tokens of about 5 to 15 minutes with refresh cut theft windows. Token binding, which ties a credential to the specific device or connection that requested it, and workload identity standards like SPIFFE, an open standard that gives services their own verifiable identity the same way a person has one, help stop replay on another connection. On AWS, STS assume-role sessions stay short and are checked on every API call. Require MFA for sensitive role use. On Azure, managed identities rotate tokens. Continuous access evaluation revokes access in near real time when risk or IP changes, instead of waiting for the token to expire on its own. On Google Cloud, Workload Identity Federation and GKE Workload Identity issue short-scoped tokens without stored keys. When access is revoked, short tokens mean the cutover is minutes, not the rest of a long cookie lifetime. Third, authenticate and authorize everywhere. User to app, service to service, app to database, and CI to prod all need both who, meaning authentication, and what can you do, meaning authorization. What happens when internal APIs stay wide open? Internal APIs left open for convenience become lateral freeways after the first foothold. Deploy a service mesh, a dedicated layer that automatically manages and secures the traffic between your services for automatic MTLS, short for mutual TLS, where both sides of a connection prove their identity instead of just one. So identity is proven without rewriting every app. AppMesh managed Istio on AKS and Traffic Director or Anthos with SPIFF cover major runtimes. Lambda and Cloud Run can use IAM invoker style auth instead. A single peer authentication resource in strict mode, a config setting in Istio can force MTLS across a namespace without months of app rewrites. Fourth, use strong device and user identity. A password from an unmanaged laptop is not the same as passkeys, a passwordless login method tied to a specific device from a compliant managed device. Device posture, meaning whether a machine meets your security requirements, is hard to fake after phishing. Microsoft has reported that compliance plus MFA blocks nearly all account takeovers in practice. Prefer FIDO2 hardware keys, small physical devices like a YubiKey that prove identity cryptographically, for privileged users over SMS or TOTP, the 6-digit rotating codes from an app like Google Authenticator. IAM Identity Center, Intra plus Intune, and Beyond Corp endpoint verification all bind access to compliant device signals. Hardware security keys cost little next to one account takeover, and they cryptographically bind the domain so phishing sites fail. Fifth, enforce least privilege dynamically. Standing admin rights from a one-time debug last forever unless you kill them. Why bother trimming unused permissions? Most cloud permissions go unused. Each is free attack surface. Just-in-time elevation, or JIT, meaning access is granted only for a short window instead of standing indefinitely, with justification, short time boxes, and approval is the fix. Access Analyzer, Azure PIM, short for Privileged Identity Management, and Google IAM Recommender plus Privileged Access Manager shrink standing rights to what is needed now. Cap elevations at about 4 to 8 hours and force rejustification for extensions, so temporary never becomes permanent by accident. Assume breach at all times. Design as if someone is already inside, encrypt internal traffic, segment limit blast radius, and invest in detection as much as prevention. Prevention fails eventually. Assume breach orgs recover faster and spend less on average breaches. Run monthly short simulations with Atomic Red Team, Caldera, or Stratus Red Team. Open source tools that mimic real attacker behavior so you can see what your monitoring actually catches and track what your monitors miss. Guard Duty, Defender plus Sentinel, and Security Command Center with Chronicle turn that assume breach mindset into alerts. Seventh, inspect and log all traffic. You cannot verify what you never see. Log network flows, API calls, auth-in, and auth-z decisions, meaning authentication and authorization, for real-time alerts and forensics. Without that, median detection can drag for months. Centralized logs alert on high signal events like auth spikes, IAM changes, security group edits, and new geos, and tune hard so alerts stay trusted. CloudTrail plus VPC flow logs, Azure Activity and NSG flows, and Cloud Audit plus data access logs are the floors. Ship them immutable and queryable. An alert that fires 50 times a day becomes wallpaper. Keep the signal high so teams still investigate. Eighth, apply micro-segmentation. Micro-segmentation means breaking the network into small, isolated zones instead of one flat space, so workloads only talk to what they need, not whole tiers of implicit friends. What's wrong with a flat network? Flat networks let a web box reach every database and queue. Segmentation contains the fire. Start with payment and PII stores. Map flows first, audit mode then enforce, and combine network policies with mesh auth z. Security groups and VPC lattice, application security groups and Calico, hierarchical firewalls, and GKE network policy all do this at workload grain. Reference security groups or tags as sources instead of brittle CIDR lists. The compact notation used to describe ranges of IP addresses, so rules survive scale out. Ninth, encrypt all communication. Internal VPC traffic can still be sniffed from a compromised host. TLS and MTLS protect content regardless of network trust. Modern AES hardware keeps overhead low, often under 2% CPU. Mesh automates MTLS, private CAs, internal systems that issue certificates trusted only within your organization, issue short-lived internal certs where Mesh is not yet there. Private CA and ACM, Key Vault and Managed Istio, and Certificate Authority Service with Anthos or Traffic Director cover the cert plane. 10th, remove implicit trust zones. 10th, internal DMZ, a buffer network traditionally treated as semi-trusted between the internet and your internal systems. And trusted partner should not mean free pass. Location alone never equals trust. VPN-Office access is usually far more power than a user needs and is a gift when the endpoint is owned. Replace with identity-aware proxies, which check who you are and your device's health on every single request. Instead of trusting your network location, one app at a time for better security and better UX without split tunnels. Verified access, intra-private access, and IAP, including tunnel-through IAP SSH, kill the implicit zone model. Mergers that glue two trusted networks together stop being an automatic super breach when every request is re-verified by identity and context. To close, continuous verification with short tokens, strong device identity, and per request auth ends the free lateral ride after one compromise. Dynamic least privilege and JIT cut standing rights that attackers love. Micro-segmentation and universal encryption contain and blind the adversary. Identity-aware access plus full logging replace VPN castles with better security and simpler user experience. Do those 10 practices and zero trust becomes an operating model, not a slide deck. Start where risk is highest. Measure detection gaps and expand until location never equals trust again. Thanks for checking out this video. Hope you liked it. Find a lot more articles and guides both on systemsarchitect.io and codeguides.io. Again, that's systemsarchitect.io and codeguides.io.